this is Joan. I'm continuing in the Quran. Today, this surah is 27, the ants, which in Arabic is Naml. I'm assuming that's pronounced Naml. The content mostly is a pep talk to Islam when they feel like they're being attacked or have some worry, and it's to be unafraid. Recently, somebody asked a question on Facebook, do you believe in the power of prayer? And I remember that used to bother me. I got afraid, but what I replied was, I believe in the influence of words and timely ones, the effect it has on the public. For instance, in history, today is August 28th, and Martin Luther King Jr. gave a speech on this exact day, how he had a dream. The effect of that has been, well, in the town I grew up in, Gahanna, Ohio, it was segregated. And there was all black on one side and all white on another. There was just one Mexican family and an Indian. But in that time frame of the 60s, it then became desegregated. Another example of the influence of words is the prayer by Assisi, which is "Make me an instrument of peace." And we all know the influence that even just one person can have on creating that state. Then I was going to speak a little bit about how I think it's important that with belief, they teach respect for religion around them, because I don't think it sometimes exists, and it just gets stronger to where you can be bullied for believing. And an example of that is that I made some inventions, two of them. One of them was what we now know as ebooks. I talked to a friend about it, and it became reality. But no one included me in my invention. I don't receive any profit from it. In fact, as a person of belief, I was attacked, and I'm now in emergency housing. I've been there 9 years. Whereas prior to that, I was 30 years into supporting myself right out of high school. So I think what I would like to inspire you to do is, if you are involved in making a product and you believe in God, if you could emphasize that in the logo, because the more that they see that you're wise, I think it will help with the respect level. So I'm going to start a prayer now on this section. It's Allah, who makes us successors on earth. Is it another God? How are we guided on land and sea? Who sends the winds, for example, a sailboat, an energy? Who originated all creation, gives us food and drink? You have shown us proof. Exalted are you. Another invention I made was just wrapping up cookies. I thought it would be safer. So that idea also was invented after I was doing it. And again, I'm not profiting from it. So I think the more that they see that we're not stupid, then we'll be treated with greater respect. Okay, so in this section, it compares, I wondered why it called it an ant. When I researched it, it said that it has to do with the fact that ants make the colony and the workers are involved. It also started to discuss Solomon, who was King David's son, and that King David saw a woman named Bathsheba sunbathing or bathing, and she was originally the wife of a man named Uriel, but became one of David's wives and the mother of Solomon. But the most important part of that is that Solomon built one of the largest worship centers. When I looked up the facts on it, it was equal almost to, I don't, a tall skyscraper. It was 1,600 feet wide and 900 feet, I believe, long. It had 9 stories. So that's an awesome achievement. The section also discussed or compared God to fire and how being in it or around it is a blessing. That's in verse 7 and 8. To never be afraid of God, but more so of immorality. The message is that if once Islam teaches the public what they need to know about God, if they don't respect it, then Islam sends troops. They expel unbelief, they disgrace it and humiliate it. That's in verse 37. Tests are sent to the public. You can ask forgiveness and mercy is shown. Then it goes on to say that, well, one statement said, why in verse 46, why are you quick to do evil, not good? And then in another translation, the Clear Quran is said to hasten the torment of those that attack you or unbelief. Then in verse 75, it spoke about recording actions, because sometimes events happen and they make us afraid. It's really important to remember verbatim what people say and how to deal with it. But it says in another verse, find that one if I can. Verse 90, that evil deeds will end up being a face that's burned. Sometimes unbelief has trouble with God because they can't see him. It's an invisible factor. But they do trust other things that are invisible, like oxygen and electricity. So that's something maybe you could mention. This Sura called Ants, it discusses Moses and how there were 9 miracles that he did that enabled Jewish people to flee Egypt. And the intellectuals compared it to the likes of magic. But really what that boils down to is how you can achieve turning a situation the other way around when you're being attacked. What can you do to stop that bullying and become stronger? And then I wanted to speak a little bit about what's happened to me in my lifetime being around atheism and some of the worst things. And one is that I never thought anyone would steal my children. My daughters, I value family, and that happened to me twice. So that's really disheartening. And I've gone through a lot of sexual violence. Atheism, it just seems like there's nothing you can trust, that you can't even believe a legal piece of paper that says who your parents are. And then they don't even tell you who the real ones are. So I was thinking, could they at least mandate that pictures of your parents are put on birth certificates, so that even if they pass away before you're old enough to realize who they were, or write a little something about what you meant to them and who they are, it would sure help. So the fact of atheism, whether they can convince you that's all you should be, is really nothing of value. And that's what I'm hoping my tape will achieve, is that you'll feel confident and stronger in your beliefs.